Vigilance will always come to people who have committed crimes. Every day, they will live in the shadow of fear and regret. However, some people do evil and do not care about the situation. They live freely as if they have never done anything wrong. Hide and Seek is a 2013 Korean film about a man's regret for his brother. He has good intentions to find his brother's whereabouts and apologize. However, his family's life is threatened. The story began with a woman named Yumri who has just returned from work. She passed a slum near her apartment. While calling her boyfriend, she was almost harassed by drunk men until she finally arrived in front of her apartment. Along the way, she nagged about how she was poor and couldn't afford a decent place to live. Someone suddenly walked in just as she was about to enter the lift. He wore a black jacket and his head was covered by a helmet. The helmeted person didn't even press the lift button until he finally stopped in front of the residential apartment next to Yunhee. Yunhee closed the door tightly because she was scared. Apparently, it wasn't the first time the helmeted man who was her neighbor had acted strangely like that. Yunhee confided in her boyfriend over the phone, but she realized other oddities. She found hair and clothes that not her belonging in front of her computer desk. Yunhee immediately went to her neighbor's place in annoyance. She was convinced that her neighbor was sneaking into her house secretly, and she threatened to report him to the police if he did it again. Yunhee then switched on the computer and turned on the camera just in case. Suddenly, a knock on the door made her go out and check the surroundings. No one was around. Then her gaze shifted to another direction, which made her a little scared. Carrying eye spray, she then approached to check more clearly. The person was a child with one eye covered with a bandage. Yunhee had left her home with the door open. After making sure there was no one, Yunhee returned to her residence. She then checked the camera footage from her computer and realized that someone had entered and drunk her drink. The footage had just happened, and the person who came in was still in the house. He stood in the corner of the room with a bloodied stick. Now the helmeted man beat Yunhee to death. No one was aware of this incident. The little girl said there were rumors about squatters hiding in other people's houses and secretly living there. The scene changed. Sung-soo was a successful businessman who lived in a penthouse with his wife, Minji, and two children, Hose and Suha. Minji previously lived in America. Sung-soo had severe OCD, where everything his eyes saw must be neat and perfect. He also has an overwhelming fear of germs. While checking on his cafe, his employees reported that crazy person kept coming in front of their shop. Sung-soo was frightened when cleaning the stains in the toilet he was about to use. A noise came from outside. The madman had gone in there and soiled everything. Sung-soo couldn't look at the mess even though he tried to act normal. Even during family dinners, he also tried to get used to it. His wife tried to understand Sung-soo, but he said he was okay. While Hose and Suha were bickering, Sung-soo got a phone call from someone, where the caller asked about someone named Sung-chul. The caller was Sung-chul's landlord. She said that Sung-chul was missing. Sung-soo was surprised to hear the news. Sung-soo reopened all his notes and memories. Sung-chul was his stepbrother, whom he hated. Sung-soo was an orphanage child who was adopted by Sung-chul's family. Sung-soo didn't like Sung-chul very much. Sung-chul disappeared after their parents died. Sung-soo didn't even tell him about his marriage and the birth of his two children. Sung-soo's wife and children didn't even know that Sung-soo has a stepbrother. Several times Sung-chul tried to contact Sung-soo, but he didn't reply. The last message he got was that Sung-chul wanted to meet because he was having trouble living and needed a place to stay. Suddenly, Sung-soo saw dirty traces in his house that had been traced. There was a madman in the kitchen who made a mess. He thought that the madman was Sung-chul, but apparently, it was just a bad dream. The next day with his family, Sung-soo visited the graves of his parents. Sung-soo asked about Sung-chul to the tomb guard, but it upset the guard. The gravekeeper said that Sung-chul never came to the grave. He also didn't want to see Sung-chul again. After the pilgrimage, Sung-soo headed to Sung-chul's apartment for the first time in decades to look for him. The landlord had told him the address. On the way to Sung-chul's apartment, Minji asked about what has been hidden in Sung-soo's life, but Sung-soo didn't give any answers. Sung-soo then exited the car and headed for an apartment that was not so well maintained anymore. He left his wife and children in the car. The landlord then explained that Sung-chul lived in the apartment 2 years ago after getting out of prison. Sung-soo was very worried about Sung-chul because missing people often happen in the apartment. Many illegal people from other countries lived in this apartment. The cheap rent made the apartment facilities makeshift. Safety, cleanliness, and comfort should be given more attention. Ironically, the apartment was rumored to be demolished for a new project in the next few months. After opening Sung-chul's apartment, the owner left and let Sung-soo in to get his brother's belongings. Sung-chul's apartment was quite a mess. Sung-soo didn't find anyone there, but in the bathroom, a sanitary pad made Sung-soo wonder. He asked the landlord who Sung-chul lived while checking other objects. The landlord said that Sung-chul lived alone. Sung-chul was a man, so his apartment couldn't have sanitary napkins. Sung-soo then tried to find out by asking the neighbors. They didn't seem to care and were reluctant to give much comment. They said they didn't know anything. Sung-soo realized that all their doors had strange symbols carved on them. After observing further, Sung-soo realized the meaning of the existing symbols on the doors were hide-and-seek codes that indicated the gender and numbers of people. The square symbol for men, the circle symbol for women, and the triangle symbol for children. However, there was one symbol that Sung-soo did not know yet, namely the Roman symbol of 5. At the same time, Minji called her parents in America. She told them about Sung-soo hiding the secret all this time. The children wanted to go play, and Minji gave permission to them as long as they didn't go too far. Minji felt stared at by a stranger, but then the stranger disappeared. Likewise, her children were no longer at the playground. Minji looked for them and asked the little girl, but she was scared, and soon her mother came. They did not answer Minji's questions, making Minji run and look for her son's whereabouts, but to no avail. When she returned, Hose and Suho were already in the car, and there was a crazy man she had seen earlier locking the car door to make her children cry in fear. Jui came in with a stun gun and drove the stranger away. Sung-soo came and calmed everyone down. He also thanked Jui, and at that moment, they were also being observed by someone. Jui invited Sung-soo and his family into her apartment. Jui explained that the character of the people in that place was sometimes outrageous. She did not even allow her daughter to go out alone. Joo-hee then offered them drinks and invited them inside to chat further. Although they initially refused, they reluctantly went into Joo-hee's apartment. Joo-hee told them that she was also a new resident of the apartment. While preparing the dishes, Joo-hee said to them that her husband was Australian and planned to go there. Joo-hee guessed that Sung-soo was prosperous because the car and coat Minji was wearing looked luxurious. Joo-hee complained about getting the news that her apartment will be demolished while she was not ready to move out and find a new place to live. She then asked why Sung-soo came to the area. Sung-soo explained that he was there to find his brother, who lived in that apartment. When Sung-soo mentioned Sung-chul's apartment number, she suddenly became hostile and kicked them out of her room. Joo-hee angrily asked Sung-soo to tell Sung-chul to stop snooping on his daughter because it's making Joo-hee sleepless all this time. Sung-soo and his family were also scared, panicked, and confused. Minji emotionally asked Sung-soo about what Sung-chul has done, but Sung-soo replied he didn't know and told Minji to go home first with their children while he investigated everything. On the way home, Minji seemed to be followed by a car. On the other hand, Sung-soo decided to stay at Sung-chul's place. While washing his hands, he heard voices but didn't find anyone. When checking the suit he was wearing, his mobile phone disappeared along with the apartment key. Seong-soo then listened to the sound again, and after investigating, he discovered a secret passage that connects his brother's room and Yeonhai's room. Sung-soo realized that in that place, there were the same clothes as the clothes in Sung-chul's residence. Sung-soo then looked for other clues and found Sung-chul's savings book and confessions that were lonely and wanted to die. When Sung-chul and Sung-soo were small, Sung-chul was neglected by his own father because their father was more affectionate towards Sung-soo. At the same time, when Minji and her children wanted to enter the house, a man in a closed shirt and helmet was in the parking lot following them. He also had a key to enter this residence. Minji was so scared that she couldn't help but try to be positive and take the same lift. The helmeted man was initially reluctant to press the lift button until they reached the front of the residence, where Minji and her children got out. Minji didn't want to press the password because she thought she was being followed, but host thought that Minji had forgotten the password and mentioned it. Whether the person with the helmet heard or not, the lift closed and the person was no longer there. After changing the password to her apartment, Hose and Suho whined for yogurt, but Minji wouldn't let them until Sung-soo came home. Shortly after, Minji received a package from the security post. Sung-soo was still trying to check his brother's passbook found at Sung-chul's residence. After picking up the package, Minji got a call from Sung-soo, where Sung-soo frantically asked his wife to stay in the house to look after the children. The phone connection was then hung up, and Minji realized the package she had received had no contents. Ho suddenly called to say that a yogurt delivery man was in front of their penthouse. He wanted to open the door, but Minji forbade him. The yogurt delivery guy in front of their apartment knocked loudly and tried to put his hands into the holes. Minji had forbidden her children the door and ran to try to come as soon as possible to protect her children. The person outside was also trying to press the password. Luckily, the password was wrong as it had been changed earlier by Minji. The knocking was getting louder. Minji couldn't take the lift as it wasn't working and had been blocked. Minji was forced to climb the stairs to the 8th floor, and the knocking sound was no longer heard. Soho wanted to check outside, which of course was forbidden. Minji fell and made the phone go off. Now Hose and Sua tried to approach the door with great anxiety and fear. While trying to peek, someone's hand tried to grab them. Finally, Minji came and fortunately, her children were not hurt even though they were terrified. The person with the helmet was now behind and tried to hit Minji with her umbrella. It tried to fight back. The helmeted person stopped the action and ran away after their apartment neighbors came out. They were crying with fear. Sung-soo was confused by the crowded situation when he returned to the apartment. His wife and children were terrified. From the CCTV footage, they suspected the person with the helmet was a madman. The possibility that he was Sung-soo's older brother, who had previously been in prison for sexual crimes, made Minji even more incredulous. The next day, Sung-soo met Sung-chul's lawyer. Sung-soo felt very guilty because his life as an adopted child was actually much more prosperous than his brother, who was a biological child. All of his father's inheritance was given to Sung-soo. In the past, Sung-chul had a rash and itchy skin disease, which Sung-soo, who has OCD, really disliked. One day they had many residents because Sung-chul was suspected of sexually abusing a girl in the village. Because they were respected, the mother did not believe and said the girl lied. But Sung-soo already disliked Sung-chul. He did not like Sung-chul's presence in the family and lied, saying that Sung-chul was the abuser, which Sung-soo upset. From then on, Sung-chul went to jail, and Sung-soo now felt very guilty. The next day, Hose was not seen coming home from school. Sung-soo returned home, where he realized something. On every residential door in the apartment, there was a symbol that was the same as the one he saw in his brother's apartment. That's when Minji called and explained that their son was missing and his mobile phone was unanswered. Looking at the CCTV, apparently his son was playing in the park, but someone with a helmet was there, which made Minji and Sung-soo immediately approach. The helmeted person was chased by local security officers, but finally, the helmeted person was arrested. The helmeted person was a strange man Sung-soo didn't even know. Minji was so upset that apparently the helmeted man was told by someone to stand there. The person who ordered him was currently in the car observing the dispute that was happening. Of course, the apartment owner came and tried to break it up. He wanted the apartment's reputation to remain the same, which made Sung-soo explain that the apartment needed to be more competent in handling security issues because every residence had a symbol next to the door. Since then, people with helmets have become wary in the apartment area, and CCTV security has been tightened. The playground became quieter. Sung-soo still couldn't calm down. He felt that now Sung-chul was trying to haunt him. Sung-soo hallucinated and imagined Sung-chul trying to get revenge. He even washed his own hands so thoroughly that they hurt. Suddenly he saw that his toothbrush was dirty and there were stains. When he returned to the room, he saw Sung-chul sleeping beside his wife. Sung-soo brought a baseball bat, hit Sung-chul, and woke his wife hysterically. It turned out that all this was just his hallucination. Minji and her 2 children could only cry. She couldn't live like that and asked to be sent back to America. Sung-soo went back to trying to find Sung-chul. He didn't want to be disturbed again, and then he realized Jui was peeping at him and ran off. Sung-soo chased after her and asked for an explanation of Sung-chul's whereabouts. From behind the door, Jui explained that Sung-chul's whereabouts were very close to them. He requested that Sung-soo told Sung-chul to stop peeping at them again. Sung-soo tried to find another clue from Sung-chul's relics in the car. That's when he saw the person with the helmet passing before him. Carrying a golf club, Sung-soo followed him, but it seemed that the helmeted man knew and was running. As Sung-soo tried to rest, the strange man came and then beat Sung-soo up, making Sung-soo run until they were on the rooftop. The fight continued, and Sung-soo, initially almost defeated, finally managed to turn the situation around, making the person who hit him much more injured. That's when the man explained who he was. He was Yoonhee's boyfriend. Yoonhee had disappeared until now, and he did not know where she was. The man suspected that Yoonhee had an affair and left because until now, Yoonhee was still using his credit card, which the man believed if Yoonhee was currently with Sung-chul. Then, Sung-soo remembered Sung-chul's financial records that he had found. Soon someone with a helmet peeked out, which made Sung-soo chase him. The helmeted person left, making the man realize they were now in Yoonhee's room. Sung-soo then checked the surroundings and realized someone was peeking out of the closet. It was Yoonhee's body. Amidst his fear, the helmeted man approached Sung-soo from behind and stabbed him. Now the helmeted man tried to kill Sung-soo too, but Sung-soo managed to grab the knife, making the helmeted man leave. Sung-soo tried to chase him. They got into another fight outside. Sung-soo almost managed to open the person's helmet, but the person stuck the knife into Sung-soo's leg. The man wanted to kill Sung-soo, but he still managed to fight back. Sung-soo then saw Pyonghwa and asked for help. The person with the helmet was still chasing him. Even inside the house, the helmeted person still tried to catch him from the window. After escaping and ensuring the door was closed, Sung-soo looked for a way to escape. Fortunately, the residence was not penetrated like the other unit. Pyonghwa then brought a medical box and Sung-soo treated his wound. Sung-soo then asked Jui's whereabouts, to which Pyonghwa replied that Jui was currently working. Pyonghwa then took Sung-soo's mobile phone. She explained that they would soon move from that place to a better and safer residence. When Sung-soo wanted to take his mobile phone, Pyonghwa did not want to give the phone. Sung-soo's mobile phone was instead recognized as the child's mobile phone. Sung-soo insisted on taking the child to naturally ask for his mobile phone back. Trying to understand the children, Sung-soo said that the mobile phone belonged to Pyonghwa and was just borrowing it, but it turned out that the mobile phone was dead. Sung-soo then wanted to borrow the phone in the house. Sung-soo headed to Pyonghwa's room, which was very spacious with lots of toys and dolls that Sung-soo seemed to recognize. Not only that, there were also many mobile phones there. Pyonghwa claimed they were all hers so she could lend one to Sung-soo. When Sung-soo checked, it turned out they were all mobile phones that had previously belonged to him. Sung-soo was frightened to realize something until he fell and looked towards an open cupboard, which, after checking, someone was in there. Someone's body was wrapped in plastic, which turned out to be Sung-chul. He remembered Jui's previous words asking Sung-soo to tell Sung-chul to stop looking at her daughter. Sung-soo learned that the person with the helmet all this time was Ju-hee, who now came from behind and beat Sung-soo. When Sung-soo fainted, Ju-hee and Pyonghwa took Sung-soo's remaining belongings. It's revealed that Ju-hee and her daughter are deranged kleptomaniacs. They have always killed people who own houses and then lived in the house, but if the owner's death was discovered, they moved to another home. Ju-hee was also the one who has been killing Sung-chul and Yoon-hee all this time. After killing the house's owner, he recognized the place as his own. After snatching Sung-soo's valuables, Ju-hee told his daughter to pack up to move to their new house. On the other hand, Minji and the children were preparing to return to America, but she suddenly got a credit card billing message from her husband, well actually Ju-hee and her daughter, who shopped with Sung-soo's credit card. Minji tried to contact Sung-soo but got no answer at all. They prepared to go to America and left their home, while Ju-hee and Pyonghwa now prepared to settle into their new home. They had no guilt or sin, living like ordinary people. When they were in the car and wanted to leave, Sua got sick. Minji forgot Sua's medicine and made her return home. She asked her children to lock the door and stayed put. At the same time, Sung-soo woke up. He was next to the bodies of Sung-chul and Yoon-hee. Sung-soo apologizes to Sung-chul and now prepared to leave. Minji entered her house to get Sua's medicine. That's when Minji received a call from Sung-soo. Minji questioned all the bills. Sung-soo then explained about Ju-hee, who turned out to be the one who killed Sung-chul, and Ju-hee also took his card, wallet, and mobile phone. Sung-soo then asks Minji to call the police and hangs up. Minji tried to call Sung-soo's mobile phone, and the phone sound was clearly heard around her. At the kitchen table, some items were not there from behind. Ju-hee hit Minji with a stick. Ju-hee then cleaned the floor of his new house. She told Pyonghwa, who was hiding, to come out. They were pleased because they got a more luxurious and decent residence. In the car, Hose and Suha were still waiting for Minji. They tried to call their mother, but their mother did not speak, and the connection was switched off. While Sung-soo was now still on his way back to his apartment, Ju-hee came over to Suha and Hose. She told the kids to get out because their mother had gone to take care of something. They reluctantly came out and realized that Ju-hee's coat belonged to her mother. Ju-hee became upset and forced them out of the car immediately. Suha and Hose were scared as Ju-hee kept forcing them out while saying that it was her car. So Ha and Hose said it was their car, and Ju-hee immediately took out the car keys from her pocket. The original locked door managed to open, making them almost caught, but the kids managed to escape. Meanwhile, Sung-soo was already in the apartment and heard the screams of his children running in fear. His injured leg made Sung-soo unable to run optimally. The game of hide and seek began. The children hid, and Ju-hee chased them. Sung-soo, who saw this, tried to get closer. Hose and Suha ran to the lift, which luckily closed in time before Ju-hee could get in there. Since Ju-hee took the house key, Sung-soo couldn't access the lift. Now the kids managed to get into their house, but Ju-hee was still chasing and trying to break down the door. The frightened Hose and Suha were getting hysterical, seeing her mother helpless. Luckily, Sung-soo opened the door, but Ju-hee hit him up from behind. The two fought, and the children could only watch in fear. Ju-hee escaped and hid again while Sung-soo now tried to resuscitate his wife, and the children can only cry. Carrying an iron rod, Sung-soo looked for Ju-hee, who was still in his house, but Ju-hee beat Sung-soo instead. Sung-soo, who had been injured before, was easy for Ju-hee to defeat. Seeing Sung-soo helpless, Suha and Hose tried to stop her, which made Ju-hee chase after them. As Ju-hee was about to hurt the children, Minji woke up and hit Ju-hee, but Ju-hee was still conscious. She then hit Minji again until she bled. Ju-hee was really upset because now her house was falling apart. She told the kids to come out and would beat them up. The kids hide in the closet. Sung-soo had regained consciousness and he saw the oil leak and prepared to strike a match, but Jui seemed to notice the sound inside the cupboard and approaches. Jui almost managing to figure out Ho's and Suha's position, Sung-soo appeared and asked Jui to calm down. Jui asked Sung-soo and his family to leave the house, and Sung-soo complied, saying everything would belong to Jui. Jui was about to hit Sung-soo, but Sung-soo threatened to light a fire to burn down the house. Jui didn't dare to fight back. She was scared that his house would burn down. The police suddenly came and made Jui strangle Sung-soo and intended to kill him. Sung-soo, who was already severely injured, tries to get a lighter. Suha appeared. She cried and says that it was her house. While the fight for the house was between Jui and Suha, Sung-soo threw a match that lit the place on fire. Jui looked hysterical and tried to put out the fire that was getting fierce. The fire detector went off, and the police broke the door into the house and saved lives. Hose and Suha could only cry while trying to resuscitate Minji. After everyone recovered, Sung-soo buried Sung-chul's body in a more appropriate place. Not only that, Sung-soo and Minji could reconcile. They were looking for a new, safer place to live. The old apartment was sold to new residents who have arrived and moved in, where Pyonghwa was still trapped and hiding in the closet. The story ended with Pyonghwa's narration like at the film's beginning. She said that in the apartment where she lived, there were rumors about squatters hiding in other people's houses, quietly residing there. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.